Gracias.
Please take a moment to turn off your cell phone. Welcome, beloved teachers, staff, dedicated board members, Cohort 12, Pardes students and alumni, PEP alumni, teaching coaches, families, and friends, to the concluding ceremony honoring the 11th graduating class of the Pardes Educators Program. Joining us as we recognize the accomplishments of these 9 exceptional men and women who will soon join the 113 PEP graduates in the field of education. Machzor Yud Aleph, our 11th cohort. Achadasar mi yodea.
Achadasar ani yodea.
Achadasar kofaya.
11 stars, reminding us of the dream of Yosef, the 11th son of Yaakov, of 11 stars bowing down, foreshadowing his future greatness. Kochavim, stars, take us back to the promise made to Abraham that his offspring would be as numerous as the stars and just as impossible to count. Stars, which may seem just like a blur of light from afar, but each one is actually a powerful force that shines brightly. So too, our very own Kochavim of Cohort 11. Each of you has been an outstanding, hard-working, talented individual, made even stronger through camaraderie and true caring for one another. You have inaugurated the 2nd decade of PEP with an atmosphere unmatched. We appreciate the 2 boards of the Pardes Institute in Israel and in North America. The hard work of these talented and dedicated volunteers offers strength to Pardes and has made it possible for our graduates to reach this milestone. I'm pleased to introduce John Corey, Chair of the Pardes Board in Israel, to offer greetings.
Thank you, Julie. I must say that this is the highlight of my year. This is, I'm pleased to say, the 3rd time I've had the honour of offering greetings on behalf of the Israel Board, and it really is a wonderful occasion. I first of all want to congratulate the graduates of Cohort 11 on behalf of myself and my colleagues on the board, both the Israel Board and the American Board. I want to thank everybody who's made this possible. There are a lot of people, Julie, Jill and the team, the Avichai Foundation, who genuinely, without them, we wouldn't be here today. Thank you very much indeed, Avichai, for your continued support. And I want to thank also whoever had the idea of having landed Hope and Glory as the introduction of Cohort 11, because I wasn't aware that I'd also be celebrating the Queen's Diamond Jubilee, which of course is being celebrated at this moment in the I think I'm probably the only ex-Brit here. Yes, I am. I can see a member of the Commonwealth. David, Robert. Oh, good. You know, this coming week's parasha, we hear about the fire that the Jewish people follow during the day and the cloud at night. And it seems a strange situation that the crowd stops and therefore Bnei Israel stop. And sometimes they stop for a very short time, literally a few hours, sometimes for a day or two, sometimes for a year or two. And they don't know, they genuinely don't know exactly what's going to happen to them. The cloud is there above the Mishkan, but they can see it move and they have to pack up their bags, as it were, and move. And you know, Shimshon Hirsch thinks that is actually a piece of education for us as Am Yisrael. Because Shimshon Hirsch says that really is what has happened to the Jewish people over the last 2,000 years, unfortunately. We have been in places where we thought we were in pretty good shape. They talk about my ancestors were in Spain, the golden age in Spain. People at one time in Eastern Europe and Poland were in good shape. Of course, before that in Bavel. And over the last 2,000 years, we have also, as Am Yisrael, been travelling to where we all are today. And Shimshon Hirsch, of course, wrote this a long time before we were back in Israel. But he obviously realised that we, as Am Yisrael, need education. Education came to Bnei Israel in the Midbar and has been passed on to the rest of us. And we're lucky enough to be in a generation where that education has actually led us to where we are now. You didn't come here to hear me, so I'm going to sit down now by thanking again everybody who's contributed to this evening and congratulating you all for your well done.
As we honor the 11th cohort of the Pardes Educators Program, we pay tribute to our funder and partner, the Avichai Foundation. We have benefited in so many ways from Avichai's commitment to achieving excellence in the day school world of North America. We are grateful to the trustees, to Yossi Prager, Executive Director of Avichai North America, Arthur Freed, Chair of the Avichai Foundation, and Dr. Michael Berger, our Program Officer, for their advice, support, and vision. It is my privilege to invite Eli Kanai, Director of Educational Technology, to address the graduates.
שלום לכולם. I'm not going to make a comment about English, it's not that good. My accent doesn't make deep sound. As you see, it's Israeli accent. So my name is Eli Kanai, I'm Educational Technology for Avichai Worldwide. Yes, I'm in all sorts of cases that I've met many graduates. They're all good. So I want to say, first I want to thank the faculty of this institution, the leadership, and the graduates for the choices that you made. Avichai's focus is on LRP, which stands for Literacy, Religious Purposefulness, and People. It's a little easier to communicate when you call it Eli Talks. Once, if you go on the internet, you go to Eli Talks, nice Eli Talks, and you can buy Pardes graduates actually. Last one is right just enough. Last week you should go see it. I don't agree with most of what's there, but it's interesting food for thought. You should do it. So Eli stands for Jewish engagement, Jewish literacy, and Israel. So it's much more communicated that way. And that's really what we focus on. And I think Pardes Educators stand for exactly those things. Literate and teaching, engaged and purposeful about your Judaism, with a strong connection to the place we are now in the state of Israel. So thank you for choosing to be such Jewish educators. Today, if someone would like to teach Torah, no problem. This used to be the role of the Leviim. As we say, Yerumu Mishpatecha V'Yaakov U'Barcha Yisrael, V'Zot HaBracha. That's paragraph 104, actually. That's paragraph 1. And in this parsha, we speak about the process of the making of, the dedication of the Nevi'im. So I hope in the last 2 years of study in Israel, you lost some weight. Because והעמדת את הלוויים והנחת אותם בפני השם. We're supposed to look to Allah, להניף בפני השם, in a dedication to become a Pardes educator. Today's world is about individualization and choice. I wonder if one could actually choose to be a Levi if the temple was constructed today. As we will realize, the idea of genetic tribe, father to son eligibility, is no longer that cool. The tribes we lead now are tribes of choice. Complex in the Jewish context? Well, we spent 2 years here. I'm sure we dealt with all that. So thank you, the 11th cohort and the 9 graduates. Good luck. And see you next year for the 9 educators who are now in the pipeline. However, choice and individualization are front and center of the landslide in education, in the educational world at large. And I'll wear my educational technology hat now for a second. And I'll say that מה שהיה, or in plain translation, what was. אבל זה לא מה שיהיה. I think the future is different. Learning management systems supporting online and blended learning, and providing better and more cost-effective education meeting every student's need. All this means more engineering skills. Just being a knowledgeable middleman is not going to work. When you look around in bookshops, travel agents, once the internet, they're not replaced by Amazon and Travelocity and such. And I think the educational world is next. And the fact that it's next means that if you have no added value, you will not survive. I know that here at Pardes you spent time working on this added value. And we will continue throughout your years as educators, I promise you. I think we will see much more individualized learning. And this poses tremendous challenges. For example, context learning is so much out of context, and so many other things. So it's not an easy choice, but you made it anyway. So before you run out, I just saw that you can run out here to American Comfort and get something at Bnei Zemer and then at Lam Tayel, right across. Know that Abichai cares about these things, and the foundation supports the LRP educational mission that you have chosen to be part of. So metaphorically speaking, we're now lifting you as in a birthday celebration in a dedication and commitment to Jewish education. That's the heart of it.
This evening, we also take a moment to recognize the generous contributions of the Jim Joseph Foundation, which funds the Pardes Educators Alumni Support Project, helping both our novice and more veteran graduates to grow as educators and to find challenge and satisfaction in the field. Since 2006, we have worked closely with Hebrew College, who have developed an innovative Master of Jewish Education, which complements our students' Beit Midrash learning here at Pardes. Dean David Bernstein will now share greetings from our esteemed colleagues in Boston.
Hi. This is a message from Hebrew College. Dear Pardes educators, Mazal Tov on your graduation. We are so proud of your accomplishments over these past 2 years and of your earning your Master's in Jewish Education with a certificate for specialization in day school education. There is no greater path in Jewish education than being teachers, and you have chosen to dedicate your passions, your craft, to this special field. We look forward over the years to hear about your joys and successes as you accompany children on their journeys of learning as our alumni. Your work as religious educators is like no other in the world. And we know from the joys we have had in learning by your side these last 2 years that you will inspire and share this joy with so many others in the years to come. Rabbi Daniel Lehman, President of Hebrew College, Rabbi Michael Shire, Dean of the School of Education, and Rabbi Karen Rice-Medwed, the coordinator for the Educators Program. They all wish you congratulations and mazal tov on your hard work.
Cohort 11 is a diverse group made up of talented individuals. Each brings his or her own voice to Pardes and to the classroom. This evening, all of our graduates will share Divrei Torah and personal reflections. I am delighted to introduce our first speaker, Bill Keller.
Wonderful introduction. Shout out. So when I got to Pardes, when I got to Pardes 3 years ago, I was on a journey of becoming more observant, or interacting with observancy a little bit more. And when I came for the first day of davening, of Minyan, I came in and sat down, and I was overwhelmed by this space. There were all these guys, and they were stark, and they knew what they were doing, and I forgot how to put on my tefillin. And I was looking around, I was like, what do I do? And I was intimidated. I froze. And after a while, I got back into the rhythm, and I was like, it's going to be fine. No one's going to laugh at you that much. And I put on my tefillin, and as davening went on, everything was fine. And then before the Shema, I'm just kind of trying to get through things, and all of a sudden, from right behind me, someone yells, "Lilmod Lelamed." And I'm like, what's going on? And I turn around, and I can't figure out who it is. And so I'm curious about this. And then the next day, it happens again. And I turn around, and it's a guy named Yoni Shear, who's an educator who graduated last year. Who's a character in and of itself. He got some chuckles just by the name. But he's a charismatic and wonderful guy. But I never asked him why he did that. And so I've always, I don't know why. I was an Ulpan, so that's the Hebrew. So I never asked him, and I just kind of mulled it over and thought about it for a long time. What does that mean? And it came to me when I was thinking about graduation and whatnot, that's the essence of what we do here, right? It's on all our flyers and paperwork. We learn in order to turn around and teach. But in some ways that felt insufficient. We're all on a journey that lasts much longer than being at Pardes and much longer than us being in school. And so I found a Mishnah from Pirkei Avot in the 4th parak that talks about Halomed almanat la'asot, maspikim biyado lilmod lelamed lishmor v'la'asot. So someone who's learning for the purpose of doing, right? They're enabled to do more than just to learn to teach. They're enabled to do it to internalize it for themselves, to guard it, to observe it, and to do all those things. And I think that's what Pardes adds, right? We come to Israel and we experience things from teachers and from an environment and a community that takes things to the next level. They're not just learning to teach it; they're learning to bring it into themselves and to personalize it. And I'm grateful. That I guess what it comes down to is I'm grateful for this environment. I'm grateful to the administration, both of the Educators Program and Pardes itself. To the classmates, to the community, to our family, and to the cohort. We all do it together. So thank you guys. Thank you. It's now my great honor to introduce Cheryl Stone to my colleague.
When I began contemplating what I would write, I went in search of the perfect teacher quote, and I found this. In יהיו כל השמיים בריאות וכל האילנות חומוסים וכל המים דיו, אין כדי לכתוב את חוכמתי שלמדתי מאלוהים, ולא עצרתי מחוכמת חכמים, אלא כשם שזדו הזו הטובלת בים הגדול ומושבו מחסרו. If all the heavens were sheets of parchment, and all the pens, and all the trees' pens, and all the sea's ink, they would not suffice to record the wisdom that I required from my masters. And yet, I drew up their wisdom no more than a fly. Dipping a foot in the great sea, diminished as the sea of the tiniest drop. I see this quote not so much as the perfect teacher's quote, but rather the ideal student quote. What was said by Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai about 2,000 years ago epitomizes in so many ways how I feel today as I stand before you. On the one hand, I have learned volumes from my teachers and mentors, things tangible, like structure, close reading of the text, biblical grammar, Arabic, vocabulary, and so on. And things intangible, making the text meaningful and relatable, caring about the individual student, not only in their academic progress, but in their personal lives as well. And most impressively, shining their brilliance through their humility. And yet, I am certain, just as certain as I am, as I have forgotten more than I remember, I have learned just the minutest amount from the combined intelligence and wisdom of those that surround me. However, this quote only speaks to half the equation. To truly learn, we must not only learn from our teachers, but rather within the community. To illustrate this point, I have created a small art project. Each of these flowers represents one of us. A world unto itself, a volume of Torah knowledge, multifaceted and infinite. As a side note, most of these flowers are native to Israel, and all these photographs were taken during my time learning here. The quote has been divided up between the images, each portrait containing only a portion of the whole. It is only when we bring them together can we see the full meaning of the individual words. So too, when we study together, in a class, with our chavruta, and with our teachers, that we can discern the true, deeper understandings of all that we have learned. I would like to take a moment to thank all my friends, family, and mentors who have been there throughout this sometimes laborious process. I hope that you know that should you need me for anything, you can depend on me. And I will equally try to remember to depend on the support structure that we have created. I am now honored to introduce my esteemed and brilliant colleague, Sam Pinkas.
Over the last 3 years at Pardes, I've learned a ton. I've learned Torah, Talmud, Mishnah, pedagogy, philosophy, all things that I knew very little about before my time in the Pardes Educators Program. But I didn't come here to learn. I came here to teach. In the 13th chapter of Masechet Yevamot, it is stated, Kol ha'omer ein li ele Torah, ein lo ele Torah. One who says that he will only learn Torah and not put it into action receives only the merit for learning it. This is quickly rejected. Afilu Torah ein lo. Kol sheyeshno ba'asiyah, yeshno b'lamidah. Kol she'eno ba'asiyah, eno b'lamidah. In fact, one only receives the merit from learning Torah once it is put into action. Though tonight we graduate, we have not yet completed our task. We will not see the true reward for our learning until we begin to teach. But as we go out to teach, we will not be alone. All of the prakim, dafim, studies and mishnayot that we have learned and poured over the last several years will follow us into the classroom. And we will teach them. The experiences that we've had here in Jerusalem, the discoveries we've made, we will teach them too. Yes, I came to Pardes to teach. But if there's one thing I've learned from my teachers here at Pardes, it is the value of learning the rich texts of our tradition. I've had the unique opportunity to spend 3 years in this room with these books, getting to know them and to understand them. Just because we are moving on to the next phase, teaching what we've learned, doesn't mean that we need to stop learning. In order to continue teaching, we must continue learning. In the end, what I want to teach to my students is what I've learned here. The utmost importance of learning our sacred and vibrant texts, so that one day they might come to teach them as well. I've been blessed to study with some of the most brilliant minds and genuine people I've ever met, and for that I'm forever grateful. Thank you to the Avichai Foundation for their commitment to this amazing program, and to all my teachers, colleagues, and friends who have supported me over the last 3 years, and to my wonderful Yes, thank you. And now it is my esteemed honor and privilege to introduce my insightful colleague and friend, Rabbi Julie Gordon.
Soon we will leave the security of Pardes Beit Midrash, where if we had a question or we wanted to study a text or study, there was always a teacher or a student interested in helping, guiding, and learning with us. We all know there's so much more to learn. When I feel overwhelmed by the massive tomes yet unexplored, I'm inspired by these words of Torah. Ki hamitzvah hazot asher anochi mitzavcha hayom lo nifleit hi mincha v'lo rechokta hi lo b'shamayim hi lemor mi ya'ala lanu hashamayma v'yitzachecha lanu v'yashmeinu ota v'na'asena v'lo me'ever layam hi lemor mi ya'avor lanu el ever hayam v'yitzachecha lanu v'yashmeinu ota v'na'asena ki karov elecha hadavar me'or beficha uvilvavcha lasoto. Moshe spoke to the children of Israel. Surely this instruction which I enjoin upon you this day is not too baffling for you, nor is it beyond your reach. It is not in the heavens that you should say, who among us can go up to the heavens and get it for us and impart it to us, that we may observe it. Neither is it beyond the sea that you should say, who among us can cross to the other side of the sea and get it for us and impart it to us that we may observe it. No, the thing is very close to us, in your mouth, in your heart, to observe it. When I arrived at Pardes, I believed that Torah was accessible and available to each and every Jew. Through my experiences at Pardes, Torah has become even closer and even more accessible to me. Through the role models of my many talented teachers and my classmates, I've learned skills to help make Torah study and Jewish living accessible to others who are seeking entry points into active Jewish life. I feel deep gratitude to my Pardes teachers and staff for everything that you've done to help me grow as a Jew and as an educator. Over these past 2 years, through your wisdom and guidance, I've strengthened and deepened my text and pedagogic skills. You are my role models for combining passion for Torah learning and living. I'll strive to ask insightful questions as I seek to deeply understand a text. Your questions will be in my head as I enter a classroom and help students find traditional and personal meaning in studying our tradition. To my classmates, Toda Rabah, for warmly welcoming me despite our age difference. We created a very supportive cohort. I learned a great deal from each and every one of you, and I'm very proud to call you my colleagues. I greatly appreciate faculty, Susan Wall, Susan Yammer, my coach, the Adu Chai Foundation's investment in my ongoing professional and spiritual development. I recognize that I'm not the typical student. You were willing to help me continue to grow as a Jew, as a rabbi, and as a teacher. I will incorporate your guidance as I strive to make Torah accessible to my students and their families. Truly, Jewish learning and living is very close to us, in our mouth, in our hearts, to observe it. And now it's my great honor to invite my colleague, Joanne Leuthen.
It is difficult into a neat little 3-minute Torah. The memories, the moments, the worlds that existed on this third floor hidden paradise. The teachers, the knowledge, the learning, the constant flow of engaging conversations. Who I was 3 years ago is not exactly who I am today, and I have Pardes to thank for that. I came not knowing what to expect, packing my bags after college graduation and landing at Ben Gurion without even so much as an address in Jerusalem or a phone number to dial to let someone know that I have arrived. I am leaving a confident and inspired member of the Jewish community with an enormous Pardes community, eager to greet me in the States. I am ready to face the world of Jewish education head-on, one student at a time. Differentiation. This word is repeated over and over again in the Pardes Educators Program as we learn how to fuel learning. Differentiation. We theorize, we apply, we practice, and finally it sinks in. Differentiation. In Mishlei, Perek Kaf Bet Pasuk Vav, Proverbs chapter 22, verse 6, the text reads, Chanoch Lana'ar al pi darko, gam ki yazkin lo yasur mimena. I read this text according to Pardes. Pshat, Remez, Drash, and Sod. The Pshat is a straightforward meaning of the words. Educate a boy according to his way, and even when he is old, he will not depart from it. Remez is the hint. When you allow people to be who they are, the best results emerge. Drash is my explanation. I believe that this text is saying there is no derech with a capital D. There is no one right path to Jewish education and building Jewish identity, and knowing this is the key to both. Teach every young student in their own way to follow their path confidently, to love Judaism in the only way they know how, so that when they are older and look back on their education, the words, the lessons, the values, and the fiery passion will continue to be lit inside of them. Finally, so, the secret. Maybe this isn't the secret that the text is trying to hide. In fact, maybe it shouldn't be a secret at all. This text is extremely significant to me because it represents this program. I was allowed to flourish as a student, and God willing, soon as an educator, because of these exact words. Every teacher I have learned with here models and represents precisely what I love most about Jewish education. I have been taught in a way that speaks to me and shaped my Jewish education and identity, and because of that, I can boldly say that it will stick with me forever, and I am so grateful for this opportunity. Opportunities should really be plural. I was blessed to have countless opportunities because of Pardes, the Pardes Educators Program, the Avichai Foundation, the staff, my mentors that worked so hard to do everything for us, Hebrew College, my friends, my colleagues, and everyone who's become my family here, my mom, who traveled all the way from Chicago to be here tonight, and of course, my teachers. I am now honored to introduce my colleague and friend, Ayal Rockland.
Ka'anel Taro Galafikinayim, like a hind crying for water. Ke nafshi taro gelechel. So too my soul yearns for God, for you, God. For years this has been of incredible consolation for me. The idea that the writers of ancient texts, Chazal, shared something so integral with me. The idea that all they want in the world is to know God. And all they want in the world is for God to come crashing through those walls and show us with a capital T, truth. But one of the things that I've come to recognize, that's not going to happen. I'm not going to see God bust through those walls like the Kool-Aid guy. But I want that. I need that. But one of the things that Pardes has supplied me with is Torah. And what I've come to recognize is that it's the lifelong pursuit of Torah that quenches my thirst. That as long as I am constantly in contact with Torah, I am constantly knowing God. I'm constantly seeing the world through God's eyes. I heard a story recently about people in this world who have the physical capability of seeing a wider spectrum of color, if you will, than most people. They can see a little bit of an extra red, an extra yellow, an extra blue that most of us can't see. But when exposed to these colors, they don't actually see them. They only see what we see, what the rest of humanity sees. And one of the theories has it that if they were exposed to those colors from a younger age, they would see those colors. How glorious would their world be? And that's what I see with Torah. That it is through the Torah that we see the world in a different way. Now, the following pasuk after Ka'el Taroga, I think in line, says, Tamanafshi le'elokim v'kalkai. My soul is thirsty for God, for a living God. Matai avo ve'era'eh me'elokim. When will I come and when will I show myself before God? It's not God that's going to come through those walls, it's us. And I think that's all we can ever desire from our students. That when they walk out of our classrooms, that we've given them enough Torah, that they see the world in a different way, a little bit more understanding, a little bit more clarity. And I hope that when we finally step out of our Pardes world, that's the ways. Thank you. Jesse's telling me not to do it. To my wonderful glassed friend and colleague, Jesse Gambia.
What an evening this is. As I look around this big midrash, surrounded by my brilliant teachers, my esteemed colleagues, and all the people who have affected my experience in the last 2 years, it seems only natural to turn to Psalms 133, verse 1. Because we're in an all-inclusive and non-coercive environment, I'm going to take a bit of license with the original quote and translate the Hebrew with a somewhat more gender sensitivity than the psalmist. How good and pleasant it is for brothers and sisters to sit together. In reflecting on my time at Pardes, I realized that some of my most important moments were those spent sitting with my peers, my brothers and my sisters, learning Torah, building friendships, and striving to understand what it means to be a great educator. It is finally time to take what we have studied and struggle with together and do our part to make a difference in the larger Jewish community. So what's the meaning of all these memories we will take from Pardes? How will we incorporate them into our lives? How will they help us move closer to our fellow human beings? The answer is that we're always learning to be how to become good Jews, and by extension, good people. We have spent the past 2 years dedicating ourselves as students, future educators, committee members, actors, singers, musicians, writers, world travelers, performers of acts of chesed, Zionists, defenders of Israel, up-and-coming Jewish leaders, fixers of the world. We have learned to be respectful of those who disagree with us, but to stand up for ourselves, to not accept a superficial explanation, to question that which seems unclear until we understand, and then, and only then, decide how we feel. We have learned to wipe away each other's tears and to rejoice in each other's happiness. We have learned to care and watch out for each other. We have become an ideal Jewish community. The community that we have created at Pardes is the model that we will search and strive for as we head out into the real world. In the coming days, as tonight's euphoria wears on, each of us will begin to realize that graduating Pardes does not just mean that we will not have to go to school early on a Sunday morning, though that in itself is worth celebrating. We will recognize that these 2 years were an extraordinary time, a blessing, a time of laughter, friendship, and love, a time where brothers and sisters sat together, and it was good and it was pleasant. With that, I am pleased and honored to introduce my friend, Daniel Weintraub.
Okay. It's so appropriate that we are in this week's Parsha. Really? No. That is how I used to read the Parsha. Now, all sorts of methods. Today, I'm applying proto-midrash, also called intertextuality, an approach from my teacher, Baruch Feldstern. You might also call this a subversive or a reversive sequel, as the Gaon Judy Klistner may call it. Specifically, the drash for this drash that I'm about to deliver comes from a shir with my teacher Michael Hatton in his Sefer Yehoshua class. More about that below, or coming up. And speaking of coming up, this is the agenda for my presentation, using good pedagogic practice. Let's see, the Cohort, why is life so easy? There's going to be a hook, we'll see what the hook is. There's going to be text studying, there's going to be scaffolded learning, there's going to be a personal reflection, and there's going to be checking for understanding, and I have to give this to Susan Yammer. You can check for understanding, or I'll check your understanding. Right. Everybody good? When Israel left Egypt, according to the Pashtani Cheryl Crow, no one said it would be easy, but no one told me it would be this hard. That's from Af Echad Lo Amar Sheze Yeh Kal, Amud Aleph, Perek Sheni, Tizmon Aleph. That's the hook. What's easy, what's hard? I'm now going to confound your expectations. Excited? Okay, we're going to compare some, this is the text part. We're going to compare some difficulties in Bamidbar. And the easy living, there are the difficulties in Bamidbar and there are the facilities, so to speak, in Eretz Israel. Okay, let's sample Sefer Bamidbar and Sefer Yehoshua. In Bamidbar, Am Yisrael argued with Moshe. In Sefer Yehoshua, Am Yisrael does more or less everything that Am Yisrael does everything that Yehoshua says. Okay, Bamidbar, the spies act like Haggadim. Sefer Yehoshua, the spies act like spies. Bamidbar, Egel Zahav. Sefer Yehoshua, Heichal. Bamidbar, terrified sprint across Yam Suf. Sefer Yehoshua, a grand procession across Hayir. It's good? Looking for... Okay, specifically about this procession, Sefer Yehoshua says, make sure I have the full pasuk, V'haduatem et b'neichem lomar, v'yavasheh abba Yisrael et hayarden hazeh. So Israel crossed the Jordan and stayed at the rock. If that, that was easy, right? That's the easy part, right? Back to the hook. That was easy. And that seems to apply to living in Israel, right? Okay. They redeemed every mistake on Israel made on the way. So taking this line about the passage over Hayarden as a theme, what made Eretz Israel easier than Bamidbar? I'll explain what I mean by easy. So, a moment of confidence. I know it wasn't great living in Israel. I mean, more like it was easily understood by Israel. In the desert, everything came from God. Manna, that you could say is easy. That's great. That's not stable. Strange things happen, right? I mean, one person, his passport was revoked just for hitting a rock. Right? That's strange. Eretz Israel is stable. You plant, you harvest. You don't plant, don't harvest. No hickey, no laundry. Okay? Not good things happen to good people exactly, but for the most part, life makes sense. For the most part, we're okay. For a student, as a student, for me, was like being in the desert. I didn't know how I would get here, or when, or even where here was. But here is it, and here lot of planting going on. Looking back, I see across the Ardennes. Looking forward, life makes sense. In Vayikra Kavav, it says, Yishnechem b'itam v'natna ha'eretz v'gula v'etz hasadeh yitem k'yoyot. The rain will come in its season, the earth will have its harvest, and the trees bear fruit. Tiki. Laundry. So, I hope for lots of rain in its season. I'll prepare for dry seasons as well. Either way for me, that's Ganesh. So, ועכשיו, חבריי, רבותיי, וכל נציגים כאן, I would like to introduce my colleague, candidate for Master of Jewish Education, Talmidei Hachma.
Daniel, you were truly a scholar in Jesuit, and having you as a colleague these past 2 years has been wonderful. I want that Sylvia that you vote for community election. I would like to take this opportunity to say thank you and give Dr. opportunity to Hebrew College, an institution with a mission of pluralism that has opened my eyes to a vision I greatly respect, and to the Avi Chai Foundation for seeing the potential of the Pardes Educators Program and funding the one-of-a-kind studies I received here. For a little bit of Esther history, I came to Pardes at the suggestion of my buddy and Vicky, who are here tonight. I doubt that they saw this day at the time of that fateful phone call, but thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to spend time in this amazing institution. I also want to thank my parents, my father is here, for supporting me in my decision to go into Jewish education. Medical school isn't for everyone. For some of us, there's this, a lifetime of Torah study that I am confident will be uniquely mine. That's what Pardes have done for me. So thank you to Judy, Michael, Gail, Aviva, Daniel, Steve, Susan, and Susan for all of the individualized attention that has helped me form my teacher self. Pardes has given me a new life, and it has done so in a multitude of ways. From the classes, to the student community, to the connections with teachers. I've learned from the incredible staff and faculty here for 3 years, and cannot hope to impress upon you all how much I've gained. But let me make these 2 specific statements. Judy says here, thank you. Thank you for helping me forge the connection between my religious studies and my anthropological ones. In your classroom, I was able to study biblical characters and themes in a way I had never dreamed. Favorite child. To put it simply, thank you for getting me Gemara and for recruiting me into education from day one. In speaking of the community, I cannot overstate how important my connections with my peers have been. From my colleagues in the cohort, some of whom I've been with since freshman year, to my roommates, old and current, to the Chavrut. I've done amazing learning while I've been here, and it hasn't been alone. Thank you. If you've ever gotten an email from me, you've seen this quote. Education is not the lighting of a pail. Sorry. Wow. Education is not the filling of a pail, but the lighting of a fire. No, it doesn't work the other way. This philosophy has been with me since high school, and my youngest brother actually just used it when lighting the candle of scholarship at his high school's National Honor Society ceremony. When looking over this week's Parsha, Ha'alotzah, I didn't have to get very far to get to chapter 8, verse 2. Zaver el Aharon va'amar ta'ela. Speak to Aaron and say to him, V'ha'alotzah et hanerot. When you mount the lamps, el mul pnei ha'menorah yagiru shivat hanerot. Let the 7 lamps give light to the front of the menorah. I thought again of this quote. Education is not the filling of a pail, but the lighting of a fire, and how apt it is. Once in the land of Israel, as we heard from John Corey, the Levites were sent out amongst the tribes to be educators. This fire of the menorah was not faced inward, but outwards, and I see great symbolism there. I am not the first to equate light and fire with Torah and education, and I won't be the last. But this is it, our mission, to ensure light faces out, that it leaves this Beit Midrash that has been our home, and that fires of curiosity are lit and helps to grow and flourish. In my earlier list of thank yous, I left out someone very special. In the 2 years that I have been a PEP student, I've had the privilege and honor of studying with Pardes Rosh Yeshiva, Rabbi Meir. In this time, I have come to love and admire him, and I cherish the hours spent in room 1, in your office, in this room, and in your home, with your family, learning Torah. Without a doubt, I have you to thank for the future I am heading towards. At this time, I'd like to ask Rob Randies to come up and address us, Cohort 11, the PEP class of 2020.
It was all very hard to make this mentality here. And I want to thank a terrific group of graduates. The teachers love you. They had an opportunity of having wonderful conversations that have been very, Rabbi, look up for them. They had some wonderful conversations, which has actually been quite meaningful to me and very supportive. For those who have dabbled up and dabbled out in the base measures, we're not done. We didn't dabble out. But for Gaboyim, and the minion that takes place in this space, you'd think, the Mishnah Berurah would figure everything out by this point. And why Pardes comes up with new shilos at 7:10 in the morning. But nothing is like being with the Gabayit of the community davening, our community attempted davening, and the meta halachic problems. I found a piece of paper 3 days ago. I haven't traced back my memory where it came from. And what it said was, I'll give the punchline. Well, I'll say what it was. Punchline says, why don't they wake up Franz Rosenzweig and bring him here for the early community minion and let him figure it out? Such meta halachic problems you come up with, and at 7:20 we have to figure it out. So let's figure the following out. Let's learn. That's the one thing we're able to do here. And this comes from the Sfat Emet. The Sfat Emet, as you know, the Ger Rebbe, great lover of Jews, smart guy, tremendous. His major work is the work on the Talmud. This is all notes from his Saturday job, his Shabbos job, from the book called Sfat Emet. And you see there's 2 numbers on the page, 5637, 5639. Those are the years that he wrote it. And Sfat Emet would every year kind of almost give some of the same motifs would come back, and he kind of worked them over several different times. So the motif that I think is relevant to us is this pasuk. At the bottom I have the Hebrew in its corrupted version, Panim b'panim diber Hashem imachem, face to face, did God speak with you? And then he kind of thinks about it. So I want you and your chavrutot, because that's what's for the educated. You and your chavrutot, take a look at this piece for the next 2-3 minutes, either the one on top or the one on the bottom. The question is good. What's it telling us what the teacher is supposed to do? Panim to panim. What's the teacher supposed to do? Maybe what the teacher's not supposed to do. What's the teacher supposed to do? Okay, that's enough. It's there. You know how to do chavruta? Let's get to it. Right, so that's actually that's the goal, right? I mean, that's really that's the requirement. It's also part of the goal, right? So I agree with you completely. So he gives a payment, right? So he gives a payment, and when he says that God gave us the Torah, but he also gave us the power, the Hebrew is Koach, and the preparation, hachana, in the souls of children to receive the Torah. I was floundering for a word. Do they have another word besides for power and preparation between koach and hachanah? I'm going to say it in English. That God has given us, or there's there somewhere, what's there within us, potentially within the students?
Courage.
Who? Who said that? Courage? What's the first? Okay, this is very nice. In other words, they have to jump into the Torah. It's lovely. What do you have?
Desire.
Desire. I think this is true. Courage, desire. You got to fan that flame. You got to fan that flame, or let them know that they really have that underneath. I wrote down the word right now, capacity. They actually have this capacity, and that actually we're capacity builders, and that that the people really have that within themselves. So you see the drasha there on that he writes, right? Shenasan lanu Toras emes. That's the easy part. The Chaye Olam here, everlasting life really means, functional here means what? This capacity, this courage, this desire, this Torah, nota, it's implanted there, and we have to kind of uncover it as teachers. Okay, that's Shlav Aleph. We've done the first part. Let's do another Shlav. I don't know if it's on the next one or within. Well, let's do the next one. Right? He brings another pasuk. Panim lepanim is just like ha-panim lepanim. If you're looking at water, you're looking at aspacularia, you're looking in the mirror, and what can the students see? What can the students see? Excuse me? You can see himself. The Torah can open himself to see himself, and as he opens himself to see himself, what further does he see? That's exactly the thing. What further does he see? The Torah. He sees the Torah, and the Torah kind of looks back and does what, Rob? What does the Torah look back and present? Presents an image. This is not Snow White and the Huntsman, which is a new movie out.
It's either himself.
What?
It's either himself or his portion.
His portion is himself. The Torah wants to give. There's a special portion there. I want to talk to you about the teacher. This is old school. All right? Old school. You've been, and you all mentioned it one way or the other. You've discovered within yourselves in these past years the capacity, the courage, and the desire to learn Torah. You had Torah, and you opened yourself up to Torah, and we've all spoken about this. Torah showed that you have a special part of it. There's something there that's uniquely you and uniquely connected to Torah. That's there. That's a very precious gift. And as teachers, you are going to go to the oldest school of all and say to your students, hopefully you won't say, hopefully you will. So, you will show that, you'll make it possible that they will encounter the Torah, and they will encounter that transcendence, that one breaking through the wall, always about to break through the wall, that they're going to encounter that panim al panim. Where's the teacher at that moment? I think the teacher at that moment may start by reflecting the Torah and God, at the same time reflecting the student by asking questions, by relating. Then as the student begins to become part of this, the teacher becomes opaque, translucent, transparent, invisible. And then, in true Pardes fashion, you will get out of the way and let the student encounter Torah and the transcendent on her own and on his own. You've done it, and you let others do it too. Welcome.
Cohort 11. Some of you know that Judy was in a minor car accident recently, and she's just not feeling well. We appreciate the fact that she lasted this long and seeing this graduation, and she's resting now, so I'm taking over. We heard our graduates allude to the importance of their teachers as role models. I'd like to make, this is Judy speaking, I'd like to make special mention of our pedagogy teachers, Rabbi and now Dr. Tzvi Grummet, and Dr. Susan Wall. Who is also director of the Pardes Educators Alumni Support Project. And thanks to our beloved teaching coaches, Aviva Goldberg, Rabbi Daniel Wolf, and Susan Yammer. אני גם רוצה להודות למורים ולצוות של אולפן אור, the teachers of אולפן אור. Thank you very, very much. I'd also like to thank Rabbi Michael Hatton, who plays a significant role not only as teacher of Tanakh, but also as Beit Midrash coordinator and advisor to the students. Thank you, Michael. Now I'm not reading from Judy's notes. The person who directs the Pardes Educators Program, Dr. Judy Marcos. Many of the Pardes faculty are Please rise for Hatikva.
Okay, so if you can take this note card and write down how you just put your shoes back on. If you can remember, if you can't, that's fine.